Welcome to yet another episode of Shortcast Over Coffee. Today we have with us a guest who needs no introduction. It's none other than film critic Baradwaj Rangan. Welcome to the show, Baradwaj.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. I've done so many of these that I really don't know that I have anything fresh to offer, but I'm glad to talk to you.
Yeah, we'll go with the flow, I guess.
Yeah.
uh, Bharadwaj, you are celebrating 20 years as a film critic or a cinema reviewer. Looking back at your career, do you want to take us through your early days as a WordPress blogger way back in 2003? How did it all start?
No, I'm okay. First of all, I'm not celebrating. It's not like I'm cutting a cake or something like that. Uh, but yeah, I did take note of the fact that because it's been 20 years, and uh, how did it begin? See, the thing is, I would not probably be talking to you had it not been for the explosion of the internet in the 2000s. Because earlier we had print and TV critics, and they were both restricted by in terms of time slots because. TV means you had maybe 2 3 minutes to give a review. Print means you probably had 300, 400 words. They'd give you a small column and say, write a review there. Because film was generally not considered very important. It was like anybody could go and just give a little opinion and say, this is good, that is good, and whatever. So people like me, we kind of were the first blog generation of critics. Uh, so we started like even if my print guy gave me only say 600 words, I was able to write a 1,500 word review and condense it into 600 words for print, but put the 1,500 words up on the blog. So suddenly, I found that there were takers for this kind of reviews, which I was inspired from by reading American critics from the 60s and English critics and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, why don't we dwell so much on a scene that we like or like an emotion that we like in a film, and why does it always have to be one crunchy, this works, this doesn't work, like one nutshell summary kind of thing? Why can't we just like a film is like a journey, right? You start, there's going to be 5 places you don't like along the journey, there's going to be 10 places you love along the journey. So why can't we talk about those 5 places that we like and those 10 places that we don't like, instead of just talking about the end of the journey? Okay, I reached, this is what it was an okay journey, it was not bad, whatever. I mean, why? I mean, like, so I thought, and the blog was the perfect thing for us because we got the chance to kind of go on. So there were still those people who wanted crisp and crunchy reviews or whatever. Because one of my favorite things, and I've said this many times, one of my favorite postcards that I got while I was in the Hindu, that the people used to still send postcards. He said, "Please tell Bharadwaj Rangan to stop writing Ramayana and Mahabharata and just give us a quick review of whether what worked and what didn't work for him. It is too painful or whatever it is." And there is an audience for that, right? So we can't dismiss that audience. So, but thanks to the internet, I found that there was an audience for this as well. That I could go on and hopefully not too indulgently, but with kind of a thing. And there was a cinephilic audience that was out there that was waiting to like read about Indian films the way Western critics were writing about Western films. So I thought so in a way, I like to say the same thing about Rahman. It's something like sometimes it's about being at the right place at the right time, because you can have all these technological music composing ideas in your head, but until liberalization happens and you have like a new generation you can reach across to the whole of India, you can't really, like, had Rahman been born in the 70s, his music, he wouldn't be where he is today, because that was a different era, right? It was like Tamil films are constrained to Tamil music alone. So it's like that. It's like sometimes you need to find. So for me, my desire to write about, or my love for writing about films at length, coincided with the arrival of blogs. And again, right place, right time. Of course, some will call it destiny, this, that, whatever. But for me, I like that phrase, being there at the right place at the right time. And I think that's what happened.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. You bring about this point about coinciding with the increasing popularity of the internet, and this also reminds me of one of India's biggest podcasters, Amit Verma, who hosts this incredibly lengthy podcast called The Seen and the Unseen. And he used to be a blogger as well. He used to
Yeah.
blog called India Uncut. And
Right, right.
he
We were all at the early days of blogging. We were all there together. So
Yeah, he told in an interview that people have low attention spans, but they don't have low attention span at all times. Sometimes they do have more attention span, which you rightly put. The cinephiles were reading your blogs and they were commenting and so on. And then there was another audience that wanted crisp and concise matter. Tell me if I should go for this movie or not.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and Amit also tells how podcasting also gave him this platform where he was not constrained by a media house or any sort of restrictions, where he could express his thoughts without any sort of an umbrella on top of him. Bharadwaj, you were raised in a time where India probably just got liberalized. A lot more foreign language movies were being screened in India, and I see that you went to BITS Pilani, which is a sort of a national college, if you will. Did your exposure to international cinema, or did your outlook change when you went to BITS?
Not really at bits, because I always think that the way you're brought up has a lot to do with the way you become. So for me, we were a trilingual household because my grandfather was an electrical engineer and he was posted all over the north. So from him and my father's younger brother, they were very exposed to like Hindi culture, like Hindi films, Hindi music, and stuff like that. So that used to be like a big part of like home, which was not very common in, like, when I used to go to school and talk about Rafi song or a Kishore song, people would not have heard of them. Whereas I imbibed that from that. And from my parents, I got a huge exposure to music from before my time, which was MSV and KV Mahadevan and all that kind of stuff. And they would, and we were always a very musical family. So we would, and all art interested family, I guess. So like pointing out specifics about this song, or humming along with a song, or trying to say, okay, this song is this ragam or something like that, which kind of you know you don't even take very seriously until you realize much later that there are many people who don't grow up in households like this, or who think about stuff differently. I always say that when I'm not talking about exceptionalism. I'm more talking about uh, you grow up in, your environment plays a big part of how you are shaped eventually, because I don't think you can start watching foreign films or listening to music a certain way, or watch movies a certain way at beyond the age of 25 or 30, because it requires like a very, by the time your mind is already set in certain ways, so to turn it and look at it a certain way becomes a little difficult. Whereas earlier, while you're still being molded, when all these influences come and clash, you're kind of there. So when we used to rent VCRs to watch movies, we used to watch English films with my friends. Like my friends and I would watch Jaws and some other thing and this and that and all that kind of stuff. We used to watch Godfather at home. I remember watching Godfather at home and like praying that nobody walks in during that sex scene, because it was in the living room, and all of us were gathered around the TV, and there was one person kept in watch in case somebody like who would sit in the chair at the corner of the corridor in case like an elder person walked in, and we could pause the VCR. And this was not even a VCR with a remote. Somebody would have to lean forward and press the pause button. So it was like, but I'm saying that. There is this Tamil word called Peter, right? Which is like I don't know. Some people use it affectionately. Some people use it like like
Petrol.
a like an insult. So, but I am like I was a Peter that way. Like I was a Peter. I was probably whatever the North Indian equivalent of Peter is, whatever the South Indian equivalent of Peter is. So like I was not a strict Tamilian in that way. So I think all these things kind of blended in and made me what I am. So I really have no I cannot claim to have oh wow, I worked towards educating myself. No, I didn't do anything. It all came out of interest, exposure to Doordarshan, where they would show anything, because I was like I would watch. I loved cinema, and I watched anything that they showed. I didn't have control over what was. I couldn't. This was a little before the TV got liberalized, so I had to watch what was on TV. And if it was an arty Adur Gopalakrishnan movie, I watched that. And when you're watching it at a very young age, you're always trying to kind of, that exposure comes in. So that slowness seeps into you, right? Right, like when you're kind of a thing. To this day, I cannot uh, one thing I cannot do is listen to too much of Hindustani music at a stretch, because that style of alap singing is a little too slow for my taste. It goes on and on for an hour. That vilambit and all just goes on. So while I appreciate certain phrases, whereas in Carnatic music the alapana is much quicker, and like they'll say in Tamil, they say viru, like that so again, my that's my loss, because I did not grow up exposed to Hindustani music, and now it's too late to kind of I can enjoy the tumris and the khayals and the geets and all that kind of stuff, but the actual hardcore like Hindustani 3 hour concert where they do like a Bilawal Todi for like 1.5 hours or 2 hours, I cannot. That kind of like shakes me, because I don't have that exposure. So I would say uh like it's all a question of your inadvertent exposure at that time. Today, maybe it's changed because you can pick and choose what you want to watch. But at that time, yeah. But I'm so glad I grew up at a time when I did not have control. I could not choose what I wanted to hear, because that's how MSV entered my system. Because I grew up in Ilayaraja era, so technically speaking, that should have been the music that's home to me. But MSV is also home to me because I grew up at that overlap period, and I think that's what it is. Am I giving very long answers for your questions? And
No,
like, stop me if I am. Yeah.
you should give long answers. I think that's the whole idea of this podcast, is
Right.
to
Right.
dive deep. And I think you bring up a really interesting point, and it's crazy how we are all children of the system we grow up in and the exposure that we get during our early days. And this reminds me
In
of
good ways and bad.
yeah,
Like I'm saying,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it reminds me of something that Warren Buffett said. The time that he grew up, the time that he was born, probably just after the Great Depression, being a white man, like white male, in a not so bad of an economic household, helped him get to where he is. And if he was a black woman, born in Alabama or somewhere,
sure.
he probably wouldn't have. So I think it just the house that we are born in plays such an important role.
Yeah. So whatever I am at this point is a complete accident. Of course, I later you can hone what those interests are. You can develop those skills or whatever it is. Later I spoke to a lot of musicians. I spoke to a lot of filmmakers. I spoke to a lot of cinematographers to learn what is this, what is that, how do you do the shot, how do you do that shot, and all that kind of stuff. But the basic interest, the basic, uh, you know, like the seed was sown, so to speak, right at that point. And had that not happened, had I been brought up in a different kind of household, uh, like maybe we would not be chatting like this. Maybe I'd be a sports commentator, or maybe I'd be like a famous chef, or I don't know, it depends on whatever it is, because I'm the kind of guy who's very happy eating a paneer wrap or a sandwich or something while like looking at something else, because I'm not a big foodie. I'm not I just need, but I know that lots of people who savor food like they're having an orgasm, and that's like that I don't have those taste buds in me. I've never grown up learning to like that's never been part of me, because I think I was always in a hurry to watch more movies. I don't know, but the thing is, my eyes were always engaged, and I was not always never paying so much attention to what I was eating, because I was always looking at the TV like that or something like that. So I think my food taste is very bad. So if you ask me how's this restaurant, I'd give you lousy recommendations, because for me a restaurant is a place where you can go and fill your stomach, whereas there'll be others who'll say, oh no, this is better, that, but because like whatever. So that I think all that the pay, and I also like one fact that I think is true is that you are born with it. Like Ilayaraja is born with a musical DNA. You can't. I don't think you can acquire musical DNA. Now you can shape it by, like Ilayaraja shaped it by composing music, learning Western classical music under Tanraj Master or whatever it is, but you cannot shape what is not there, is my contention. So I feel people like Ilayaraja, they're all like, or like Spielberg or whoever you want to take Scorsese, they're born with the ability to. That's, I think that's part of the DNA, and I think one day that will be discovered, that you're born with that certain uh in what is the word, uh not insight.
Spark.
I'm looking for a word. No, like you're born with a certain instinct,
Hmm.
like to kind of to do something, like I'm like Federer's born with the tennis DNA. I don't think you can, because there are many people who take up tennis and who try and try and try, and they never go beyond a certain level. And it's not just practice or the number of hours or something like that that can make you a competent player, but that exceptionalism that you see in an Ilayaraja or a Federer or whatever it is, I think that only comes from being born with something, and that's my contention. It's I don't know if that's a scientific fact or something, but I truly believe in that that uh that, and by extension I think that there was something in me that helps me appreciate art beyond what I can understand, and I think that comes from the subconscious, and yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's something that I have not been able to understand is someone born with a musical talent or being born in a certain household makes them a better musician. Yeah, it's definitely contentious. I think, some people like Harsha Bhogle heavily focus on the fact that work ethic and all of that is what makes someone who they are. But yeah, we will
No,
never know, I
work
guess.
ethic is very important because, see, I have to keep watching uh, films from all over, not just restrict myself to a particular kind of film. All that is there. I'm not saying work ethic is definitely there, because a lot of people say, like, how do you put out so much content? Like I like did so many videos or whatever it is. It is not. It's just basic time management, discipline, those very, very basic things that a professional needs. It's not like I have 500 hours in a day. But beyond that, I feel, what is my USP, right? That USP comes from something I can't even say, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, makes total sense. Bharadwaj, after your degree in chemical engineering, you moved to the US, and you moved to the US to go to college for a completely different major. I note.
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
was that all about? Like, what was your thought
No,
process at the time?
uh, see that again. See, today people are much clearer about what they want to be when they are like very young. Like I have like people that are 15 or 18 saying, I want to be a wildlife photographer or something like that. But that time India was a little different. You basically had the big professions. You could become an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it is, chartered accountant. These were the pretty much the things that you could become. And the people that fell in between, like me, the fall between the cracks, you basically cling on to one of these streams, hoping that something would happen. And this is, but for me, so a lot of people make the peace with the fact that, hey, I'm okay, I'm just doing my job, I'm getting a paycheck, whatever it is, I'm okay with it. But I just kept searching and searching, because there was this thing inside me that kept saying, this is not, I'm not happy, I'm not thing, whatever it is. I know part of this sounds very ungrateful, because there are many people who don't have like the economic means to kind of make. So this does come from what I all that I'm talking about does come from a certain privilege, like just like you said, from Warren Buffett, right? So but there was something inside me that said, oh my God, I'm not, there's something not being satisfied. There is that part of Maslow's hierarchy that says that once your basic uh, needs are satisfied, then you start there are other needs, right? It's like once your food, clothing, shelter, everything is kind of set, sometimes you go after other things. And I just didn't know. So I just kept like going. I thought I wanted to write, so I went into advertising, mass communication, this, that. But then I realized that was not it. It was like, but then the idea of combining writing and cinema is when it clicked, and I got immense satisfaction from writing reviews. And then the like I was sending out emails with reviews to various people, my friends, but without my knowledge, they were sending it to other people. And one of those emails landed up at the desk of this person who was taking up. Her name is Sushila Ravindranath, and she was taking up the position of the editor of the New Sunday Express, and she was looking for a new cinema voice. And she just read this and said, "Listen, do you want to like this thing?" I was looking for any kind of opportunity, so I just said Tata bye bye to the US, came back here. Usual story. Everybody is utterly horrified, shocked, this, that, all that. What are you doing? Writing this, that? Because nobody knew what cinema writing was. They thought they'd only been exposed to cinema gossip writing and all that kind of stuff. So long story short, it took a while, but well, here I am.
Hmm. Wow. And I also heard that while in the US, I don't know if it was while in the US or elsewhere, you went to libraries to learn more about film critics and how they used to do it at their time. Is that true?
No, but I also used to subscribe to a lot of magazines, like Sight and Sound, and which. See, the thing is about the US is that all of this is very cheap. Here's everything you convert, you multiply by 80 or 70 or something like that. The American cinematographer, it's like, oh my God, I pay so much for the subscription. But it's part of the. It's like being a doctor. You have to keep up with whatever it is, right? So it's like you kind of need to know. But it's like it was very easy to kind of everything was $1.50, like $2, something like that. You never thought of spending $50 on a book or something like that, where like because that's like spending 50, maybe 60 rupees, 50, 60 rupees on a book. Whereas there now it's like 50 into 70 into whatever it is becomes like, times whatever. But so yeah, so I have like I still buy film books. I used to buy all these magazines and read like reviews end to end, the long reviews, and especially of films that I hadn't seen, or films that I had seen. I would wait to watch the movie and then see if my thoughts coincided with the reviewers' views. So yeah, so I was, and also I was completely exposed to for the first time the concept of free public libraries, and where I could go and read archived reviews of various critics out there and how they saw, and I and those libraries had older films free. I could just take home because I lived in a particular district. I could take home, go to that library in that district and take home, check out movies as well. So I saw so many foreign films, like classic Hollywood films, all those kinds of things that I was think. So I was kind of that really helped that you know get that. It was almost like getting a self-made degree in something, because like I was studying like as if I was studying for an exam, because I was like suddenly, oh my God, all these movies and they're for free, all these books and they're for free, and it just was like the right thing that I needed at that time. So
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, and I think you rightly summed it up. It was like an unofficial degree, and I don't think being a film critic is even taught anywhere, and I think everyone is pretty much self-made.
yeah, I think cinema start, but you kind of critic is something else, like because like I've often said, I don't not very fond of the word critic because it sounds like criticizing something. But it's that's for better or worse. What you're really doing is is putting your thought processes of a film down and kind of analyzing what goes on in the film visually, in terms of audio and things like that. And I think all that helped me take knowledge. I would get like I would get videos like some cinematographer talking about how they lit up a set, or like what is this angle, what is a why did they use this particular angle. And see, these are all very unconscious things that suddenly became conscious for me. Like I knew that a low angle was kind of when I saw even in Indian films, if I saw a low angle shot and I saw a villain being there, that feeling of dread would come to me. But I didn't know it was called. The camera was being kept at a low angle because it was just a visual. So but now, like of course now a lot more people know about these things because the internet is pretty much there. So I really tell upcoming directors today, you have no excuse today to kind of like say I don't know what to do or this or that, because there are entire scripts available. There are entire directors talking about their careers, their works. There are master classes. There's everything out there. So there's no way you can say that I don't have the money to go to film school or whatever it is, because that's not even needed. So it's all out there.
Yeah, internet has democratized a lot of things.
A
Um,
lot of things, including film critics, because I'm very glad that that revolution has brought forth a lot of different kinds of film critics, because now everybody can go to the film critic that they like, or follow the style of the film critic that they like, rather than having only 4 or 5 institutionalized critics sitting on top and saying this is what it is. Because now I can go and follow anybody, uh, because maybe I'm not a guy who's that much into cinema. Maybe I just want a vague idea of how the movie is. Then I know that there are people out there for that, you know. But but for me, the biggest, the loveliest surprise has been that there's been such a community of film lovers and very passionate film lovers out there that still, keep coming to my blog and commenting, uh, which has been always a kind of like one of the things that I think I will leave behind is this like, or legacy or whatever it is this, is bringing together an adda, a place of like talk, or films, like for people to talk about, like it's a place where people can chat, discuss films, and kind of put it out there. But I think, yeah, uh, that democratization extends to the fact that there are so many types of critics, or even people who say on Twitter that, oh, I'm 10 minutes into the film and it sucks, or whatever it is. Yeah, you can say that that's very unfair or whatever it is, but that is what it is. That's the world we live in, because that's the attention span we have. And I'm glad that uh, the attention span, that the longer attention span people are still there, and I get reminded of that because of the people who read my reviews and then pick up specific sentences and say, I agree with you about this, or I disagree with you about this, because that means that they've read it actually,
Yeah.
and that's very gratifying.
Yeah, that must
So
give you a lot of satisfaction. And you mentioned about you going to libraries and reading about legendary cinematographers and directors and so on. Did that affect the way you watch movies? Because I've heard from several directors that they hate watching their own movies because they know how they shot it, and hence they find so many mistakes that we can't. So my question is, did that impact, because earlier you used to watch movies as a proper fan, but now you're thinking about how that angle was shot, how they would have lit up the set and so on. Did
so
that take
uh,
away?
not at all. I just developed. I just think this adds a parallel level of processing to the experience. Uh, just like, again, this is an example I've given before. Like, if you just, without knowing music, if you go and watch, like, listen to a concert, you're going to probably enjoy the music at a, oh, it's nice, it's soothing, it's peaceful, whatever. It's lovely. It sounds very mellifluous or whatever it is. But if you know the music, you're going to get all those attributes that this other person is getting: nice, peaceful, soothing, nice, mellifluous, whatever. But you're also going to do a bit of parallel processing about how they're using the raga, or how, where they're taking the raga, or this or that, which each one is not, they're not disconnected. It's not that you are, yes, there is a bit of X-ray vision, but that doesn't take away the enjoyment that you get. So I would say you're doing two things: you're examining and enjoying, as opposed to just enjoying. And I don't think that enjoyment doesn't go away. Or the experience doesn't go away, because you are still a human being. You're not like it's not a report card, right? You're still like when you watch a story, you are adding your own experiences to that story, which is why I think reviews are so personal. I'm not writing for like whether you will like a movie or not. I'm writing my experiences of a movie. And I know this sounds a little, I don't know what it sounds like, but it doesn't matter to me whether you like the movie or not, because you're perfectly within your right to hate a movie. I'm Who am I to tell you, like, I like the movie and therefore that's the final word, or whatever it is? It's not. It's just my For me, this movie spoke to me very personally, and I like it. And your for you, maybe it didn't work at all. Maybe you haven't had those experiences, or maybe the movie wasn't what you wanted. Uh, so I have always written reviews for myself, and it chronicling my journey through the film, and I have never intended it for them to be recommendations. And I till today, when somebody says, I always, I read what you, or watch what you say and then decide whether to go to a movie or not. I always like I'm very uncomfortable with that because it's like, dude, I'm not doing that. I'm not providing that service at all. You're taking something from me that I'm not even willing to. That's not part of my game at all. So if you're doing that, then that's on you, right? It's like I'm abdicating myself of all kinds of responsibility. So
Yeah, movie is a subjective term like any other art form, I guess. And
yeah.
I've noticed that you remove the recommendation aspect. Has it ever happened that any publishing house or media company that you worked for wanted you to give X stars for a particular movie, and you were like, no, I can't do that?
Uh, See, for me, always the star giving system was very, very problematic because I never knew how to like I told you, right? See, let's say you find 10 good things and 10 bad things in a movie, right? What are the stars you give? Yeah. It's like 2.5 means average, but those 10 good things are phenomenal, let's say. Why should I reduce that to an average? Because those are really phenomenal things. So maybe you can give stars like the scene where this happens, phenomenal. The scene where this happens, not so great. But that's what I'm writing in my review. So why should I replicate that in the form of a cumulative star rating when each individual point has a kind of a hidden star rating in itself?
Weighted average,
When
sort
I'm
of.
a weighted average sort of. I don't know. I've never found I'm and maths has never been my strong suit. So it's like I never found out how to give stars. And when we decided to do away with it, it was brilliant because I now find people giving 2.85 stars, and I'm like, how the fuck do you give like 2.85 stars? What is that? I'm like, what is that what is the system by which you get arrive at 0.85? I'm like, I don't know, but there are people who do that, and I guess they follow a weighted average system. Maybe they just do that, but I don't know.
Or pull it out of their
I'm
hat. I don't know.
yeah, or where else? But this is kind of so I think it's kind of I have never been comfortable about recommending movies to others, but I have always been very secure about my views. I have never been like, oh my God, am I liking a movie that others dislike, or am I disliking a movie that others like? No, that's never been a problem or issue for me because that's who I am. I can't force myself to abandon my definition of aesthetics, my way of looking or what I look for in a movie, the finesse that I want in a movie, all that. I can't abandon that because that's what makes me me. And like I said, if that's not what you're seeking, then there are always other critics who offer different uh, ways of reviewing a film, and now we can all find that one or two or three critics that resonate with our views. Though personally, I've always been interested in critics that whose underlying core system is so different from mine because I always learn from somebody who says who's very different because otherwise it's just an echo chamber. You're just kind of like saying, hey, yeah, right, this, that, whatever it is. But if somebody dislikes a movie and writes beautifully about it, as in why they disliked it so much, then you're also aware of the fact that how a certain kind of person can process the same movie and why certain things that work for you did not work for them. And that's always interesting because that's what good culture discussion is all about. It's like it's not about saying I'm right or you're right or I'm wrong. It's not that. It's about talking about things. Like that's what it is. It's like if I were to replace that one term, I would call myself a film discusser or a film analyst rather than a somebody who gives verdicts and bangs the gavel down on a movie or something like that. Because that is so not what I want to do. In fact, one of the things that I've grown bored of is writing those snarky reviews for bad films because I've done enough of those and like really life's too short. Yeah? Like, to be watching bad movies just for the sake of writing snarky reviews or whatever it is. It's like I get like if a movie's not working, I'd rather not review it. Like than to kind of like try to find because after 20 years you also run out of in like new ways to write about the same old things. Uh, so I'd rather it's like a variation of that Hitchcock quote. I want movies that are so bad that I can write about them, about the badness of them, or that are so good that I can write about the goodness of them. The ones that exist in the middle, that they don't interest me at all. That not as much as the others.
Yeah, reminds me of this really bad movie that received this cult status, like a Gunde or Gunda, I think it is called, which is trolled all the time, and people love watching it because of how bad it is. And
Yeah, no, that's a different thing because there you're taking a movie that is like generally considered bad and having fun. Like it's a drinking game movie. Like my show producer recently said, we both came back after a long stint at the Mumbai Film Festival. We were away for about 10 days watching arty films and all that kind of stuff. And he says he's now only watching movies like Chandramukhi too because he kind of like needs to, like, he does not want to watch any more beautifully composed short frames or whatever it is. He's like, I just want to watch like utter and like really bad movies. And I understand because there's a certain fun in that, because uh the films that turn out to be like inadvertently they're so bad they're good, right? That's what they call them. And I think that's something that that's also useful, I guess.
yeah, I've heard the same
Like
thing
for instance,
from.
one of my
Mhm.
favorite I love creature features, right? So whenever I cannot resist giant shark eating up people, giant python, giant alligator, giant whatever. That's my go-to comfort movie. It's like I love watching people being ripped apart to pieces by like humongous mutant animals. That's my like comfort food. Like bring it on, like here's the popcorn. So that's everybody has a zone, I guess. So you raised your eyebrows. You were like, "Oh my god, this guy's darker than I thought he was." So it's just like,
No, it just reminded me of this movie called. It's a Mel Gibson movie, I think. Direct. I forget it. Apocalypto. Yeah, I was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I was it within the first 3 minutes. I was like, oh my god, I can't do this.
No,
Like,
but that's a good movie. I mean, as in, like for
it
me,
is a
that was an
fantastic
actual.
movie. Yeah.
For me, I loved it. I loved it a lot. Again, but that's not the movie I'm talking about. I'm talking about these cheesy piranha. Like suddenly, like somebody's filming, and oh my god, they stripped to their bones uh by a flock of piranhas. Like that's my, oh wow, I bring it. Like I wish more movies were made like that. Just kind of so.
Yeah, I guess everyone has their own comfort food, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, comfort food. That's my go-to thing. But I don't know because I think I basically gravitate towards serious films. So this is the absolute antithesis of that. So I think that kind of becomes my
I've heard,
fun part.
I've heard the same thing from about actors as well. Like they, especially lead female characters like a Manju Warrior or a Nayantara. They are like, I do so many women centric movies is that I want to do a mass masala movie just to balance it out, and they are just so
Right,
good
right.
because.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just like always upholding emancipatory values or something like that. Which I'm not saying that's not important, but
Yeah.
it becomes this burden on you. Like, oh my God, you're a woman filmmaker. You should make sensitive films. Like, how long can people do that? It's like.
Yeah, yeah. Bharadwaj, there is this criticism. I wouldn't say criticism, but there is this talk in at least Kerala. I don't know. I'm not too sure about Tamil Nadu. That movie reviewers are, deciding the fate of a movie, and we are at a time where there are these online media that go into the theater and be like, hey, what do you like? There's like first day, first show reviews, theater reviews, and whatnot, and then people just give a verdict that it's an amazing movie and it just didn't work and so on. And do you think there should be a certain embargo like they have for tech reviews? Apple releases an iPhone, the tech reviewers are not supposed to do it for like 3 days or whatever. Do you think that is needed? What is your take on that? And it's become a big issue in Kerala, by the way, that people
I
are
know,
not
I know, I
supposed to
know, I know.
do for
Are you
seven
in tech,
days.
by the way?
I am in tech, yeah.
Right. Uh, um, I think there is some value to holding reviews back for the first day, for two reasons. One is it gives the reviewer time to think and bring out like a better review instead of hurrying to bring it out on the same day. I also think it gives the films a chance because everything needs a chance. Uh, but this is only in the case of the bigger movies because the smaller reviews are helped by reviews. Because if there's a film like Pebbles, Kurangal, which nobody's ever heard, you don't know who Vinod Raj is, you don't know who, there are no actors that are names or whatever it is. It's just this thing that's dumped out there without any advanced thing. Like, should I watch it? Should I not watch it? What is it going to be like? You don't know. That's the case where small films, you help reviews. So I think it really helps to have an advance buzz that, oh my God, this is an amazing film. So then at least some crowd goes in on a Friday. So it's not easy to put a blanket rule on this. I feel because if you do this, then the small films are going to be obliterated because it's reviewers that help these smaller films or these slightly like a Vijay film does not need a review, right? Because you're going to have houseful shows the first day anyway. You're like a Rajnikant movie does not have a that you don't need that review system because it's going to have it anyway. Like Salman Khan, we're talking like the week that Tiger 3 is going to be released, and it's probably going to open to houseful reviews regardless of houseful shows whether or not good reviews are there. But what about 12th Fail? That's a movie that got pushed entirely by reviews and word of mouth, and today it's like it's a hit. It's like compared to what its budget is, and you want these lovely little gems to be promoted. That's there's nothing that gives you more satisfaction than doing uh like discovering this little movie that could and I think that you completely get obliterated if because the theaters will say, okay, I waited on Friday, nobody came to this movie, and I waited on Saturday, and nobody came to this movie. So I'm taking out the movie on Sunday, and I'm going to play Basha again. So that's it. That movie is gone. So I think this is a
Yeah.
two-sided, like a thing, and another practical issue is maybe you can stop the reviewers from reviewing, but how can you stop those on Twitter from watching the film and giving the word of mouth that's going to drive people? How are you going to prevent that? Are you going to ask Twitter to block any thing because people will get on everything? So I don't think it's even possible to kind of do this.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion because some of the reviewers say that, if you are asking us to wait for 7 days, the movie is not going to last in the theater for 7 days because
Movies
of
don't
exactly
last
what you
two
said.
weekends, boss. It's like see the first weekend and the second weekend. That is the first 10 days is all that a movie collects. It's about 80% to 90% of what a movie collects, regardless of however big a hit it is. The first 10 days, basically the first 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the weekdays to an extent, and mainly the second weekend. That's really what the movie collects. So technically speaking, even if a movie lands up on OTT in the third or fourth week, it's still going to like collect only this much. It's OTT is not going to cut. The people who want to go to the theater and watch the movie will do it in the 10 days that's there. The old things about a movie being slowly discovered after the time and then slowly going on word like going on and on and on and all that it rarely happens and by that time other movies have come in, see, because the rate of production has increased. See, earlier when film rolls were expensive and cameras were heavy and filmmaking used to be the domain of a few people who were able to afford these. So mainly the big studios could afford to make 3 movies a year or something like that. Today, anybody with a smartphone can go and make a movie, technically, or anybody with a digital camera can go make a movie. So the enormous amount of cinema related content, and by this I mean films, OTT shows, whatever it is, it's enormous. So after 2 weeks, nobody's interested in that movie anyway. They've moved on to something else because that's the new flavor of the season. Earlier, the flavor of the season maybe used to come once in like 6 times a year. Now it's like 6 times a month. Like there are like every Friday you get such a like a dump of like a movies that like a movie dump and you like who has the time? You
Yeah.
know, the one constant thing I hear among all my friends and relatives is how the Netflix or Amazon watch list keeps growing and growing and growing, because they always find something, they put it on their watch list, but they never get around to it because there's always something new dropping, and they watch that first, and so the watch list keeps, keeps getting longer. And that's true because there's so much to watch. And like, not everybody has my job, right? They have jobs, actual, like where they cannot watch movies or whatever it is. So it takes time to catch up with all these things. So the average person sees maybe, I don't know, 5 6 movies a year, and in a theater. At home it's different. And that's why I think, we are seeing these overload of epics, so that like people will come to the theaters and watch these films, because I'm promising them something immensely larger than life, rather than something that they can probably enjoy just as much on a smaller screen, even though technically speaking, every movie is better on a big screen. But then we don't always, I don't have that luxury. So I don't expect you to have that luxury, because if I started watching everything on the big screen, then that's it. That my entire week would be filled with just watching. Forget uh, getting the time to review or do other things. So
Yeah, I think there's just way too much content, as you rightly pointed out. And then, one of the things that I always wonder is, again, this is just my hypothesis, is why are Indian movies so famous or so watched? Is uh, probably because uh, we as Indians don't have anything else to do. Like, we probably don't go out in the nature as often. We don't have a place to take our families. Do you think that is the case, why Indian people love to go to the movies?
because it's the because look at the income, and we are a third world country, and this is the cheapest form of entertainment. This is We don't have national parks, and even if we have national parks, it's not like in the US, where the entry is relatively okay. Here, if you want to go and spend a week at Bandipur or something like that, it's going to cost you quite a lot. It's like all the forms of entertainment that are not like we don't have rock concerts, we don't have independent musicians, we don't have everything is film related. The concerts that people go to are Ilayaraja or Rahman or whatever, Vidyasagar, Shankar Ehsaan Loy, whatever it is. They go to known commodities, and the commodities that are known, see, cricket, politics, and films. These are the three things that dominate Indian conversation. You cannot help that. Music comes like a very distant second to even this, because we don't really. Music is whatever's in a film that gets discussed, but we don't really have a music culture that's or a dance culture that is as embraced as in the Western world. So I don't think. Or even theater, for instance, it's like we don't have things like community theater or whatever it is. The few that do it out of passion, that they do that out of passion, or for learning tricks that they can then go to films and then use, like learning theatrical ways of emoting that they can then go and use methods of acting or whatever it is. But very few people say, I want to spend my life in theater doing theater. Whereas in Broadway, that's very, very possible to kind of even be a character actor and have a very, very decent uh, income level, and say, like, yeah, only maybe only New York stage goers like me, but I still get enough to kind of live a life that I want. It may not be the poshest life of Leonardo DiCaprio or whatever it is, but it's still like a comfortable life. So that's definitely a reason, because we have only these ways of thing, which is why when movies combined with cricket, right now we are in the middle of the World Cup, and we have the this one going on as well. Movie releases going on as well. You always see dips on Sunday, because people are never able to decide, oh my God, should I watch this match or should I watch this movie? Because they're both the same. But there's nothing else. We don't have anything else to kind of, uh, like one of the things that was very fantastic for me in the US was all these national parks, and all these things that you go out to and just sit down and stare at the stars. I mean, like, that's such a calming thing, right? You don't have it. We seek calm in chaos, I think, rather than calm in nature. And I don't think that, and I'm not saying this is good versus bad or whatever it is, but I think it's a systemic thing, and that's why you're kind of this one. So
Yeah, yeah. Watching the stars with the kind of air quality in Delhi does not seem like a possibility now. You rightly pointed out about theater. You know, people running theater out of passion, and I think one of the best examples is Nasiruddin Shah and Ratna Pathak running Motley, right, in Mumbai. And I really want to talk about quantity versus quality. Like we spoke about how this enormous overflow of content, and I read that people like Quentin Tarantino, they take a lot of time for during the pre-production phase where they lock in the music director, the editor, like 1 year or 2 years in advance. And Indian directors don't do so. They sort of work backwards from the date of availability of the heroes and so on. Do you think we should do more of the former just to have more quality content and not as many content as we have now?
see, but then Tarantino has the luxury of clicking his fingers and people will line up at his doorstep, right? Here it is so hero centric that the that's the kind of thing that drives the industry. But I don't think all directors are like that. See, the thing is, there are directors that go after stars, and there are directors that don't go after stars. Like, for instance, you will never find. I just did an interview with Kartik Subbaraj, and he said, "I can only, I have to finish my script and then kind of, look for whatever is happening." But the thing is, if your script is not solid, and if you start work while you're kind of a thing, two things can happen. One is you can have great luck and still do, because in the old days that is how they were making movies. They were writing movies on the sets, and still we got a bunch of great movies, right? It's not like that process is impossible to create good movies in. But I think there are a lot more pressures now because the budgets are inflated, the star salaries are inflated, and everything, and so recovery becomes important. So whereas those days it was cheaper to make movies, and I think I think it was like not that difficult to kind of thing. And I think also those days people were okay with, okay, I went and saw a decent movie, it was not bad, whatever. Whereas today, because of the options around us, if you bother to get into a cab and bother to drag yourself all the way to the theater and bother to wait in line or whatever, bother to spend money on all the popcorn and everything else. And you're like, okay, you better entertain me, okay? Because like I could have been watching 3 hours or something else for something. That pressure was not there on the earlier films, whereas that pressure is there on today's filmmakers. So I think that way, and also there are so many other small things like the decline of attention spans. So you kind of, if you sit and make a movie that is this one, uh like a lot of people told me that they found it very difficult to follow Pony Selvan 1. And I said, I don't know what is so hard. It's like at the beginning of the movie, a man gets a mission. He has to take it to this woman, and so he takes it from this this to this person. And the second half of the movie, he gets that woman gives him another mission to find another person, and so he goes to Sri Lanka, and that's the second half of the movie. So it's a very clean line where at the very beginning of the movie there's a war, and like Karti is given this saying, okay, go deliver this, find out what is happening in this. And because of what he finds out in that place, in Kadambur, he goes to the princess, and she tells him, "You go and do this and find this thing." So it's basically one sibling sending a message to a second sibling, sending a message to a third sibling. That's all that line is. But a lot of people said it's complicated. So I cannot say that. I'm not going to say you're stupid or you can't understand or nothing like that. But it's the way they perceive things, right? Because maybe they want everything saying, a long time ago there lived a king, and all the characters to be introduced in the first half, like right at the beginning, so that they know who to follow, what to follow, this, that, and all that kind of stuff. Whereas uh, you're not doing that here. You're kind of going with the characters right into, like, you're beginning with a battle pretty much in the middle of things. So I think that that is the attention span has become a lot less than what it used to be. But I think that's something that creators will have to battle. They'll either have to say, well, I don't care. I'm just going to make movies the way I want to, or, well, this is what the business is today, and I have to, uh, that's the way so unless I go to OTT, I'm going to have to follow where the audiences take me. So I think that's something that every creator faces in their lifetime, right? It's like, I don't think it's just the movies alone.
Yeah, it's crazy how challenging it has become for the directors. I think Martin Scorsese also kind of
Yeah,
complained
he's
about
making
how,
he's making
yeah, fantastic movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. But then he also has this complaint that everything is taken up by Marvel and DC and all of that, and then where will the small drama movies go? And yeah, having watched some of the classics, I sometimes crave for drama movies, and it's quite far fetched. I mean, quite far between these days. One of the other things that people usually complain about in movies these days is lag, and it's a very loosely used term, but I mean, reminds me of one of, I think, Hitchcock's quotes where he says that the build up towards a scene is more important, right? So you brought about an interesting point where the attention span is less. So is there a constant pressure for the director to have these really quick jump cuts
Of
and
course, of
pack
course,
the
yeah.
movie with mass scenes? How do you see that? Has that sort of taken away from your experience as a movie connoisseur?
See, personally, it doesn't work for me, but I can also see that is working for a lot of people. So, what can you say? That
Yeah.
that's the thing, because I can only respond to a movie because I like classical cinema. So for me, things like what Hitchcock said, that's very sacred, because the build up to an emotion, whether it's an actual gunshot or whether it's an emotional explosion or whatever it is, the build up to that is always going to be more important than the actual explosion itself. Whereas now you have the build up is taken off and you just get the explosion, 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 explosion. And people want that. It's like, one very interesting theory that I came across is, uh, because when we scroll and when we go through reels or shorts, our brain has become accustomed to seeing a lot of disconnected things one after another without saying that I'm going from politics to sports, I'm going from sports to cinema, I'm going from cinema to something else. Because we watch all these mixed up. So the whole idea of a narrative arc or a character arc has now become redundant, because a character can do something in scene one, something else in scene two, something else in scene three, something else in scene four. And as long as something happens, people don't care, because they're looking at it as a series of reels expanded on the big screen rather than a classical filmmaking thing. And I found the theory very interesting because it makes sense, right? It's like, see, when I'm on my phone going through shots or reels, I'm not looking for character arcs or continuity, or, oh, I'm in the mood for watching, like sketch comedy. So like everything that comes on my timeline should be. It doesn't happen that way. The next thing that pops up could be something else. The suggestions could be something else. Uh, it's even in music, right? It's like, yeah, I feel in the music mood for listening to melodious songs today, but then you also get, like, other kinds of songs, like very beat heavy songs or whatever it is, but we consume them all because that's playing one after another. It's like somebody downloads all these things onto a pen drive or something like that, and you stick it a Bluetooth device or something like that, and you stick it into your car, and that's what comes. And then you just kind of, so the if something happens that's you don't care for, you just click next, and you just switch off and do something else till the next thing that you like comes along. And I think movies are becoming like that to a large extent, because people are just like, while, okay, oh, the boring scene, okay, let me look at my smartphone. Oh, it's an interesting scene, oh, let me look up. Oh, it's a boring scene, okay, let me look at my smartphone. So because there is something to do while the movie is being, so, quote unquote, boring for them, it's no longer a torture or something like that, because they're not obliged to look at the movie the whole time. So classicists who still insist on things like character arcs or narrative arcs or things like that, they are definitely in the minority. And whereas this is the generation that's going to go and say, surprise me, throw a surprise at me every single moment.
Yeah,
So
sometimes if you are packing the movie with surprises, sometimes it just doesn't last, right? I mean, I can hardly remember the dialogues of or conversations of movies released these days to be like
no,
become
it
a
also
part of
life,
popular
right?
culture.
See, because a lot of our life is so boring or routine or whatever it is. That's why the high points register as high points, right? When something nice happens, or oh, what a surprise! You landed up at my house today. That's why that's such a surprise. Or when like it's rather than like a surprise happening every single day, and you're like, oh my god, can I have a day when nobody is knocking at my door? That's what's going to happen. So because life is a set routine every morning. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you do this, you do that. So suddenly one morning when you wake up and somebody is like like you're like it's raining, or it's like suddenly you find that it's an off day, or something like that. It adds that spice to that particular day because it's an unexpected event after so much of like routine, in the midst of routine. Now if you do away with the routine and only have something spectacular happening every day, I, for one, would go very tired because it's like just that constant exhaustion of keeping up with the surprises would be like, oh my God, can I just have a normal day where nothing happens, please? But then I don't know. Probably the kids think differently. So
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from personal experience. So there was this one day where I watched Miracle, Invictus, Remember the Titans. A lot of inspirational movies back to back, and I was like, enough. And it also it also makes me think about LinkedIn these days. There are like motivation quotes of after motivational posts after motivational posts, and I'm like, oh my god, that's way too much. And also to go with feel good movies, right? There are just way too many feel good movies sometimes that
yeah,
also.
you need a mix of everything, right? It's like so the I'm not saying I want boring moments in movies, but it's the relatively uneventful moments that give the punch moments more of a punch because they're being built up to. And now you're saying, I don't want the build up, I just want the punch. So after three punches, you're like, oh my God, okay, another thing is happening, another thing is happening, another thing is happening. And it's like, you're just looking for ways to shock the viewer into like, wow. Uh, and I,
Yeah, what is fascinating is that these kind of mass scenes have increased, but the length of the movies has not decreased. I mean, it's still 2 hours, 2.5 hours. You would think
yeah,
that the
yeah.
movies would come down to like 1.5 hours, or
Yeah, because if all people want to see is like explosion after explosion, why are the movies still so long? You don't know.
yeah. Fascinating. Bharadwaj, you also interview a lot of people, and one of your most famous books is your conversations with Mani Ratnam. I can clearly get a hint that you are a fan of his work. So, w-
Clearly, he's one of my favorite directors.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, when you're reviewing a Mani Ratnam movie versus movies directed by the others, how do you overcome a sense of bias that you have
I
because
don't
you're a
even I
fan?
don't even do anything consciously. I let the movie work on me because see, I'm not. Yes, I know him personally to an extent, but I also have this policy where if I watch a movie by a friend, and it could even be Gautam or somebody like that, and if the movie doesn't work for me, I tell them, I send them a message and say, I'm really sorry this movie doesn't work for me. So that it frees up my mind about how to phrase it in such a way that they're not hurt or this or that or whatever it is. Because you have to say what you want to say, because that's what you're being paid for. Uh Unfortunately, they're all very, like okay, but like Kumar Raja is one of the coolest persons about you hating his movie because like he hates everything. Uh so you don't really so if I go tell him that I Super Deluxe suck balls, it's like he's not going to like it. Okay, let me rephrase that in case you want to correct that. If I go and tell him that Super Deluxe was like really bad, he's not going to really mind it, because he's okay with the fact that different people are going to like or dislike certain things. But is the discussion interesting? Is the movie giving me something to think about? So I really don't believe in this concept of uh, there is an unconscious bias which we have no control of, right? The very fact that you have chosen to interview me over many other critics is an indication of an unconscious bias, because something in you is drawn to something about my work, right? That could be the way I talk about films or whatever, because that reflects the way you think about films, or something like that has happened, right? It's like uh similarly, why am I drawn to uh Tarantino's staging, or why am I drawn to Mani Ratnam's movies, or why am I drawn to Scorsese's films, or why am I drawn to Spielberg's films? Because, like Spielberg, there's a certain elegance of filmmaking. That aesthetic is what draws me in. I'm not a fan of West Side Story as a movie, but the filmmaking of it has made me watch that movie about 3, 4 times. So, am I saying it's for me personally? Is it a good movie because Spielberg has directed it? No, because I found it rather redundant. But there is so much of it that ties into my own sense of aesthetics, that that's what binds me to these films, rather than it being made by that one film, because that person is somebody I don't even know, Spielberg. But the work, the way he stages the stuff is so fascinating to me that that I that's what makes me a fan. So I'm not a fan because I like the person. I'm a fan because I like the work. Like I told you recently about just now about Ponniyin Selvan. It's had Maniratnam done, like, okay, like this first scene has Prakash Raj on the thing, because we're told about this king called Sundarachora, but we're not shown Prakash Raj. So somebody has to remember that name and then connect it to the scene where this man is ailing and lying down, and then, which happens, if I'm not mistaken, about maybe 45 minutes into the movie. Eh, Now, Maniratnam, I like Maniratnam because of that, because he's saying, watch this movie on my terms. I don't care if you don't like it, you don't watch it. You don't like it, but I'm only going to make this. The easier way to do this would be to, there once was an emperor called Sundarachora, and you show Prakash Raj. He had 3 children, and you show Vikram, you show Jayam Ravi, you show Trisha. And he says, you go to Sri Lanka, and then go fight this war. And then Trisha says, why don't you go to Kanambur? And then the scene is set, audiences immediately get hooked onto the plot. But that's not what he's doing. Jayam Ravi doesn't even appear until the second half of the movie. So there's a certain element of narrative risk taking that draws me in, because I want things to be a little different. Now, this may backfire severely with those who want things to be comforting and the same. There are a lot of times the kind of movies that I like don't resonate with my parents, because they like to be spoon fed. They watch movies not to be surprised, but to get a sense of comfort. So again, it depends on the kind of person that you are. That's what the aesthetic that is that I'm coming about, right? So there are a lot of people who are going to look at Jem Ravi in the second half and go, "Who the fuck is this guy now?" Suddenly, like I've just encountered all these characters now. Suddenly, somebody's like on the seas. What's happening? But there'll be others who kind of take the thing from that and see. I feel that the same thing, like when Zodiac came out, and I'm a mad fan of that movie. I've seen it many times. A lot of people just said it was too slow, but that's what police procedurals are. They're not fast. It takes a long time to decipher clues, find this, find that, put things together, put events together, and all that. It takes a long time, and the movie, in a way, decompresses time in order to accommodate the feel of being an actual procedural, which is what is so fantastic about it. But if you're going to get impatient and say, "Oh my God, I came to watch a serial killer movie," and like the serial killings are not happening that fast enough, then that's your prerogative. You go watch what uh somebody else is making that suits your what you are seeking in a movie, right? But I think where I get a little annoyed maybe is when people say that one should not make movies a certain way or that they're wrong. And no, I think everybody should make every kind of movie. Uh, you want to feed the audience immediate information, that's a valid form of filmmaking. If you want to tell it in a very peculiar, particular way, that's a valid form of filmmaking. There is no one form. But you just go and one of the examples, like there is this person who kind of hates Bhansali movies and makes it a point to go to every movie of Bhansali and say, "Oh my God, what a terrible movie!" I'm like, dude, by the time you see the second Bhansali movie, you know this aesthetic is not working for you. So stop watching his films. Instead of going and watching, like, that's 3 hours of your life, why would you give it to a movie to a filmmaker that whose none of whose films have worked for you? So I come to an important point, which is FOMO. The important thing is not, like, the logical thing would be to, like, Pansali doesn't work for me. I'm not going to watch his film, so let leave it at that and watch something that actually works for me. But because everybody's watching Pansali films, I want to go in and watch it and not feel left out because I want to see what's there. But then the aesthetic of Pansali does not work for me, so I'm going to yet again be disappointed and come out of it like saying, I don't know what critics are talking about. This is such a shit movie. I don't know if this guy can ever make a nice movie. But then that's not the movie's problem. That's your problem because you're not able to relate it. So there is a very, if you're not able to relate to an aesthetic at a fundamental level, the movie is never going to work for you, right? See, this is a very complicated and big discussion, so I'm not even going to like explain more. But yeah, I think I explained enough to kind
Yeah.
of give you an idea. Yeah,
Yeah, Bansali has not worked for me either. I don't know why,
yeah.
but yeah, it's
But that's
just
perfectly fine, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's like, see, I love his work, but you doesn't work for you. But we can have a, if you want, and if you're a film lover, you can have a conversation about what does it not work for you. But if you say no, he's a bad filmmaker,
yeah,
I won't agree because there is no such thing as a good or bad filmmaker. It's only a filmmaker who works for you or does not work for you.
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that whole concept of bias is, it's like, because your aesthetic and your what you want out of a movie and the way you've been shaped is rebelling against the aesthetics of a Bansali movie. So that's your internal bias. That is kind of, but if you go to a Bansali movie saying, I'm going to tear this movie down, or if you go to a Bansali movie and say, I don't care what it is, it's Bansali, so it's a masterpiece, then there is a bias.
Yeah,
And that bias is not something that you can actually justify in a review.
yeah, yeah. It's
Because
yeah, it's not a
you'll
healthy
you
bias. Yeah, yeah,
and you can't, and you'll tie yourself and knot up in knots trying to uh speak nice things about a movie that is not working, or like I've told so many times, is Chekachevandavanam a bad movie? No, it's okay, whatever it is. But is it a movie that I expect from Mani Ratnam? No, it's not. So there are also those expectations that play a part in it. See, because art is a very complicated thing, right? It's like one a friend of mine can come and say, why do you want Mani Ratnam to always make quote unquote classics or whatever? Why can't he just have fun with 4 stars and make a chill movie with nothing really happening? Perfectly valid explanation, right? But somehow that I'm not able to connect to that film. So it's as like trying to justify why somebody likes does not like a film. There'll be like lots of fun reviews. Like when I did not like Jailer very much, I got a lot of like, oh, he's a Kamal fan, therefore he'll never like a Rajini movie. It's useless trying to generalize things like this, because it's like your basis comes from, I think, time. If you've been working at a field for 20 years, you've proved what works for you. People know that I'm a person who looks for narrative arcs, character arcs, surprises, bold filmmaking choices, something that tells things in a different way. These are all things that you've seen in me looking for reviews. So if something just does a cliched thing in a cliched way, it's not going to work for me. So I'm saying, but there are other people for whom these are working, right? So I'm not going to say they know nothing about cinema. I'm the one that knows everything. No, it's like, but this is the way I processed it. That's all.
yeah. I think you summed it up pretty beautifully. I think for me, Stanley Kubrick never worked, but Scorsese and Spielberg worked. So yeah, it's very
Yeah.
subjective, I guess. Yeah. Talking about
It is
you.
subjective with objectivity. There is the reaction, the gut reaction is subjective. But the way you justify that gut reaction by explaining it, there has to be a reasoning for it, a logic for it.
Right.
So there the objectivity comes in. That's why I don't like the term objective critic.
Hmm.
I would I I'm a subjectively objective critic, as in my reaction to any film is subjective because that's the gut feel. But how I describe or justify that reaction, there are proper science level proof theories, this, that, and all that happening in my reviews, hopefully, because that's where I get into my my where I justify that stuff with
Right.
things that are objective. Like you cannot dispute the fact that this happens in the movie, which is why that's like that I'm that this is why I'm getting that subjective gut feel because of this objective thing that's happening in the movie. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, coming back to you interviewing people, I think one of the things that I've noted in interviews, especially in India, especially, I would say, let's say cricket interviews, right? You get someone who's a foreign cricketer, let's say like a David Warner. They are usually asked, "What do you think about Virat Kohli? What do you think about Rohit Sharma?" And I've also noticed in movie-centric interviews, the level of questions that a main actor or a main hero, like a Vijay or a Mammootty, is asked is entirely different from the lady leads. They are usually asked things like, how was it working with Ajit sir? How was it working with Shah Rukh, and so on. But I have noticed in your interview that you respect the guest a lot, and then you don't have this certain level of questions for certain kinds of people and certain levels of actors, be it A list or not, someone who's not in the A list. Do you do it very consciously, or is that something you think that needs to be done and that needs to happen more often?
uh see, I don't know. See, because interviews are very, very strange things, they are like I always think of them as a mental tennis match, right? All you can do is serve the first ball, and then everything depends on the return serve. If they are in a talkative mood, they're going to expand on your points and things like that. You're in luck. You can have wonderful serve and volley, things happening. If they're just going to hit it straight into the net because in a bad mood or in bad form, that's you're screwed because then you've got to go on to your next question and wonder now should I serve to this person or should I serve to the other end of the court? Or, I mean, do I take a radically divergent approach to this interview or whatever it is? And so much of it is being in the moment that I don't know, frankly, how these interviews, like later when somebody says something worked for them or when they say that, no, this interview was not very satisfying. Because, for example, recently there was a Vidhu Vinod Chopra interview that I
Yeah.
did that I knew while it was happening that, fuck, this is clicking, man. This movie, we are really two people that this servant volley is happening beautifully. This thing is really clicking, this interview, and I'm really like into it. And by that end, I knew I had a good interview. You may or may not have thought it's a decent interview, but I was very, very happy with the interview. But there are many interviews where by the end I'm like, I don't know, did it go well? Did it not go well? Like I don't know, because we are so in the moment that 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 you're not able to pull yourself back and gauge whether the interview went well or not, or whether they answered questions well or not. But then 2 months later, when I see the interview, I say, okay, that's not bad. That went pretty decently. Or shit, man, I should have uh, pressed on this a little more. I don't know what I was thinking the other day by going off and asking a brand new question when this was clearly waiting to be explored. So yeah, those are
Yeah.
uh, the thing. But I have done my fair share of asking female stars to tell things about male stars that they worked with, and I'll tell you why also. Because sometimes it's very difficult to come up with questions for female stars because they're treated so badly by the industry and hardly given any roles to do or anything worthwhile compared to the male stars that you don't know what to ask them, and because they don't have a big body of work, and most of them are forgive the thing, but they're flavor of the season. They act with all the big heroes, and then they vanish. And then the next person comes in and they act with all the heroes and they vanish. So they're not treated well. They're not given roles that act well, that to act well. So it's very difficult. So one way to get out of this is by saying, but to treat it a little respectfully. It's like, what have you learned from by observing so and so on the sets, or like what tricks have you picked up from this actor or actress? But that always happens. That somebody actually complained about this in one of my interviews, saying, why do you always ask the actresses about the actors that they worked with? Why don't you ever ask the
Yeah.
actors about the actresses that they worked with? But how can you ask when the actresses are given so little to do?
Right. Yeah.
This year for my roundtables, we're looking for actresses that have actually achieved something this year. Good Lord, it's a barren landscape.
Yeah, I remember
It's
an
like,
awkward moment from one of your interviews where you were with Pooja Hegde, and then you kind of were like for half a second you were lost for words of, uh,
yeah,
yeah,
it's like something. What do you? It's but because like in the US, you know, you can count on like one hand the number of actresses that actually have made a mark. Like in things. Otherwise, they're mainly playing second fiddle to the hero, doing really nothing. And it's tough to really get a sensible set of questions to them, and which is probably why the people who do these like very jolly and fun interviews, they have a better time with actresses, because at least they're kind of taking that route. Whereas when I'm trying to when my interest is more along things like process, or like I don't find much to ask them at all.
yeah, yeah, and pretty bold of you to accept that I have had my fair share of questions where I ask actors and
No,
stuff
but
like
it's all
that.
out there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So
true. Yeah,
there's nothing that every piece of work that I put out, every review that I do, every interview that I do, it's out there in the open. There's nothing that's hidden, right? Like there, I always tell my guys, even if somebody is like saying something bad to me, or if I'm hesitating over a question, leave that hesitation there, because that's part of the conversation. That's what adds life to that
yeah,
conversation, because otherwise it'll be this unnaturally flowing thing. Because sometimes I'm searching for words, or I'm doing something like that, and that's part of the interview, that's part of the interaction, because at that point I want people to know that I'm searching for a word or a reaction or something like that, because that's the reaction, that's the impact that this person. So that's what happens in real life conversations as well. So I tell them that, like, to an extent, have this, unless it's terribly distracting and like taking away from the interview, but have those disruptions, because that's what adds that reality to an interview. But because I know, like, editors who will clean up, in the process of cleaning up, they will just completely run through the whole thing and give like this perfect, where I'm spouting the most vivid and perfect sentences, and the replies are so perfect and this and that, and I'm like, but this is like so antiseptic. It's like somebody mugged up all the questions and gave the person ahead of time, and they mugged up all the answers, and they're giving all the answers, and it's terrible. Like that thing. So
yeah. A similar feedback that I got for my podcast is when people are like, "Oh, this is too jarring in an audio episode," but then when they are watching the video, they are fine because they are watching the person, and that kind of distracts them. Bharadwaj, coming back to your interview with people, I remember this. I think someone asked Karan Thapar who was the toughest person to interview, and he said A.R. Rahman. Uh, what would your answer be? Who was the toughest person that you interviewed?
uh well, in terms of print interviews, it was Mani Ratnam circa 2012. He's opened up a lot now,
Yeah.
but when the book came out and we did it in 2010 or 11 or whatever it is, it's I didn't know him at all.
Hmm.
I'd met him a bunch of times, I think, and he wanted to talk, but he's just so not uh, an open talker, that like he like what I'm saying is, if you're in a generic situation with him, he's wonderful and he's very funny and this and that. But when the lens is on him, or when a camera is trained on him, or you're asking him questions for a book, it takes a lot of things. So that was I won't say tough, but that was it was a process that got easier as it went along. Uh, 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 Otherwise, who was tough to interview?
After you came to, let's say, Galata Plus or Companion.
Mm. Well, there have been I can't name names, but there have
Hmm.
been a couple of people who I know do not like me, but were forced to give interviews to me because of various reasons, publicity or whatever it is. And I could sense the hostility, and I had to keep things a little like to kind of uh, do my own way of saying, boss, let's bite the bullet. This is a professional gig. Let's just do it and like get it done with, and then I don't have to see you and you don't have to see me. But I don't think many people will know which ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, that speaks volumes of your professionalism, I guess. Has it happened that, right after the interview, they're like, "Hey, you gave me bad reviews for this movie. Why did you do that?" Or are people usually chill?
No, no, no. See, the thing is, see, we all feel personal about our work, right? So, supposing I tell you you're doing a like a bad podcast, it's gonna hit you because. But for me, uh, I'm more interested in knowing why you think it's bad rather than because the bad itself doesn't mean anything because you're going to say my interview is good, somebody else is going to say it's bad, the third person is going to say it was meh, it was like nothing, it was just okay, whatever it is. That is that I'm not interested. But what really I want from you is why is this why is it bad or why is it good?
Yeah, that reminds me of an interview that you gave recently where you said Leo didn't work for you, but you said that the next time you meet Lokesh, you want to sort of get into his head and want to understand this exact process as to why
Yeah,
certain things.
because my one person's liking Leo is not if any interest to Lokesh or anybody, but I want to know what happened. What is this? What is this thing? Because I've liked his films largely so far. So what happened here? It's like, um, is it my expectation? Is it something that he did? If I see Leo again, will I like it better than the first time? Is it also the humongous expectations that I have out of a Lokesh film? There are so many things that play into this, right? So I think that way I'm not a like people don't really take it very seriously. But I've had conversations with a couple of people who say things like, "Yeah, you will never understand this because you come from such a privileged background and this and that and all that." But see, I can't beat myself up about it. I can try to understand their point of view. But uh, if I think a movie is not working, it's not working, and no amount of social messaging or whatever in it is going to make it work for me because yeah, some people will say things like, "I have to include this message because that's what people like. They like to take home something." But that's not me. So your movie is working for all those people who like to take home a message, but it's not working for me because I'm not one of those people who goes to a movie for a message. So that's fine. That's how it is. But I like directors who have that discussion with me, saying why did it work or why did it not work or what happened, like kind of a thing. Because at the end, because like I said, it's just one person's opinion. It's hopefully an informed and educated opinion, but it's still an opinion. And if after the cooling down period, if they want to say, okay, boss, what really did not work for you? But you've been this thing. So it'd be a great discussion to have.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I think, see, I think people are too focused on like to get back to where we started. Let's finish it on that note, which is basically like it's about the journey, right? Not the destination. It's like whether I liked the movie or not at the end is only important to me because I'm the one who's probably going to watch it again or not or whatever it is. But the things that I found interesting along the way or not interesting along the way, I think that's really what tells you how I process something, and I think that's what's interesting at a basic level. And luckily, I still have like a niche bunch of readers slash watchers who like this approach and who watch my reviews because of that. But every time somebody tells me you're famous, you're a celebrity or something, I also tell them actually maybe in relative to your life because you're in an IT firm and nobody knows about you. But in an open field like this, I'm nowhere compared to some of the celebrity reviewers who get millions of views per review. I'm not there at all. So, but I this is not modesty, or I don't believe in modesty. I know that I have a core bunch of people that like what I do, and that engage with what I do, and that's a good thing, right? It's like you don't have to be the biggest star in the world, but as long as you have your place, people come to you for something. You're doing a job, and you know that the job has certain people that are drawn to it. That's a good place to be in,
Yeah.
and to be in that place after 20 years, I'm really grateful and happy. Uh, as something that I'll say.
Yeah, yeah. I think I don't know who, but someone said you just need 1,000 genuine followers, and your life is kind of set.
Yeah,
Bharadwaj,
yeah,
yeah. Before we end this podcast, I would like to just quickly ask this question. National award, right? You received the national award for the best film critic in 2005. I was going through the list of other people who have received national award before and after you, and I was looking up their names. They're kind of nowhere to be seen. They are probably working for a magazine or some other things. You have managed to stay relevant. What do you have to say about that? How did you manage to stay relevant? Was that needed, the need of the hour, that you would sort of moved from print to blogging to let's say now video interviews?
uh, yeah, all of that, because it's like when I went from uh like from print to digital, and then expanded myself from reviews to interviews and all that kind of stuff. I think I found out that the following just kept growing, and I also think that I, you know I never really deviated from my core aesthetics. Like, I'm not jumping in today and saying, "Wow, look, there's a surprise every moment. This movie is generating is resonating with today's kids, so it's a great movie." I'm still going to be that old fart, grumpy old fart in the audience who says, "Where is the narrative arc? Where is the character arc?" I'm just going to be that guy. And I think the fact that I've stayed true to my beliefs, my sense of aesthetics, uh, what I want, or what I expect from in films. I think that has kept me going, because people know that I'm coming from a place of my truth. I don't want to say truth, but my truth. And so I think that makes people want to say, okay, so I hate this guy, but let's see what he has to say about this film. My editor, like I began this with my editor, she always said, people like you, that's a good thing. If people hate you, that's an even better thing, because if the people that hate you still find it unable to keep talking about you or keep mentioning you, then you're in a really good place. It's when they ignore you that you are in a problem. And I think, touch wood, so far I've been in a like or hate place. The ignorant phase has not yet begun, so I hope it stays away for a long time.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I mean, like when we began the podcast, you were like, "I have done a bunch of these, and I don't know what new I have to say." But I think you said quite a lot of things, and it was quite insightful. So thank you so much, Bharadwaj, for your time. Long form content, long conversation, but it was amazing talking to you.
no, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me. And I, even though I say I've done a lot of these, there's clearly, as I'm not bored at this point. We've spent about an hour and a half chatting, and I'm not bored. So thank you for engaging me, and for making me talk. And sometimes it's nice being on the other side of an interview, because now I'm looking at this from the point of view of uh, my guests, or my interviewees. So thanks, and all the best,
Yeah,
and look forward to this episode when it comes out.
absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna come out very, very soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.